After spending years entangled in lots of legal disputes, Selena's widower, Chris Pérez, and her family have reconciled.
Pérez made the announcement via Twitter yesterday, and this is a brand new story on KSAT.com right now.
For nearly 3 decades, the story of Selena Quintanilla's tragic end seemed complete until now. The mystery is no longer a mystery, and the emerging truth isn't comforting. Chris Pérez, Selena's widower, who largely remained silent about their private life together, finally opened up in a candid 2025 interview tied to a new docuseries.
As opposed to what has been done since she's been gone, and I have a pretty big imagination, so I have no doubt that she would have been as successful as some of the other great artists that are out there.
His revelations offer previously unshared insights that may change how fans understand what actually happened. Sit tight, because the truth? It's not just stranger than fiction, it's heavier. And once you know it, you'll realize why so many people worked so hard to keep it buried. Selena Quintanilla mystery finally solved? For years, Chris Pérez had kept his memories of Selena tucked away, locked behind a wall of silence that even her most devoted fans couldn't break through. But in 2025, that all changed. In an emotional 4-hour documentary interview, he decided to speak, really speak, about the woman the world thought they knew. This wasn't the polished, media-approved version of Selena that had been carefully presented over the decades. This was raw, unfiltered truth. He told them that people never really understood how trapped she sometimes felt. The bright, unstoppable star they saw on stage, that was only half the story. Behind closed doors, she wrestled with a constant, invisible weight, expectations that seemed to follow her everywhere she went, from her home to the tour bus, even into her dreams. Selena Quintanilla was more than just the queen of Tejano music. She was a light, a star, and a dreamer. But behind all the smiles and music, there was a story that didn't make it into the love songs. Now, new details have finally come out, and they're not what anyone wanted to hear. Was the truth hidden all these years? And why does it still feel so painful, even decades later? Stay tuned, because what we uncover will change the way you see her story forever. Chris recalled moments in the months leading up to her death when she would open up about wanting something different, something separate from the family business. It wasn't that she didn't love performing with her siblings, he explained, but she wanted to know who she was beyond Selena y los Dinos. How many people ever get the chance to truly discover themselves when the whole world already thinks they've figured you out? According to Chris, this desire for independence had begun to stir real tension with her father, Abraham. They loved each other deeply, but there was a growing disconnect between the path he envisioned for her and the one she was quietly carving out in her own heart. As her fame grew, so did her longing for creative freedom. Chris spoke about the notebooks she kept, pages and pages filled with song ideas that her father had rejected. These weren't just random lyrics. They were pieces of her, reflections of the artist she was becoming. She was dreaming bigger than anyone knew, imagining not only her own music, but producing for other artists, branching into acting, and stepping into film. She was ready to explore every corner of her creativity, even if it meant stepping out from under her father's watchful eye. But chasing that kind of independence in the middle of a tight-knit, high-pressure family business, that was never going to be simple. And then came the part of Chris's story that left people shaken. He described the private breakdowns, the moments no fan ever saw. Some nights, after the cheers had faded and the lights had dimmed, she would collapse into tears. It wasn't just exhaustion, it was the crushing reality of being everything to everyone. She carried the weight of her family's livelihood, the expectations of an entire community, and the pressure to never, ever disappoint. How does someone keep smiling when they feel like the whole world will fall apart if they stop? Chris remembered how she could be laughing with fans, signing autographs with her usual warmth, and then, once alone, fall completely apart. Power, silence, and control. At the heart of Selena Quintanilla's life was a tangled mix of love, control, ambition, and sacrifice. A power dynamic so deeply woven into her story that it shaped almost everything she did. People often saw the glamorous stage lights, the dazzling smile, and the perfect performances, but behind the curtain was a very different reality. One where her success was carefully crafted and guarded by the person who discovered her talent in the first place, her father, Abraham Quintanilla. He first recognized her gift when she was just 8 years old, and from that moment, he took the reins. He didn't just guide her, he built an entire family band around her, one where his word was final. Even though Selena spoke English growing up, Abraham insisted she learn to sing in Spanish, believing that connecting with Latino audiences was the key to building her career. In many ways, he wasn't just managing her music, he was shaping her cultural identity to fit what the market wanted. And it worked. Under his leadership, Selena y Los Dinos transformed from a small act playing in rural dance halls to one of the most celebrated names in Tejano music by the late 1980s. But as Selena's star rose, so did her quiet desire for independence. Her biggest act of rebellion came in the form of love, her relationship with guitarist Pérez. To her father, this romance wasn't just a personal matter. It was a direct threat to everything he had worked for. When he found out about their secret relationship, he fired Chris from the band without hesitation, calling him a cancer to the family, and openly worrying that marriage might take Selena away from music altogether. What if they got married and he pulled her out of the band? All the work we did all those years would go down the tubes, he reportedly said. Selena, hurt and frustrated, pushed back, but Abraham dismissed her feelings, allegedly telling her, "Of course he loves you. You're beautiful and you're rich." It was a painful clash between her loyalty to her family and her own happiness. Eventually, Selena and Chris eloped in April 1992, just before her 20th birthday, a bold choice, but one that didn't end her ties to her father's control. In fact, the irony was that after this one act of defiance, Selena seemed to lean even more into her father's vision for her career. She ventured into fashion with her own boutiques, hoping to carve out something independent, but without the right business protections in place, she remained financially vulnerable. Her father's control wasn't limited to stage schedules or creative direction, it extended to money as well. Despite being the star, she received the same net profits interest as her siblings, a setup that kept her tied to the family's business structure and made true independence nearly impossible. Every song she recorded, every show she performed, and every deal she signed happened within the framework her father had built. It was as if Selena, even at the height of her fame, was still moving inside a world he designed, one where loyalty to family was expected, obedience was rewarded, and stepping outside that boundary came with a price. And so, while the world remembers the legend who lit up every stage she touched, behind that light was a young woman balancing her own dreams against the weight of someone else's control. This is where the story turns into a heartbreaking lesson about trust, betrayal, and how one fatal decision would change everything. Stay with me till the very last word, because this is where Selena's light met the shadow that would take it away forever. The fatal trust in Yolanda. Beneath all the bright lights, the chart-topping hits, and the adoring fans, there was a shadow quietly growing in Selena's life, one that would end up cutting her story short in the most heartbreaking way. That shadow was Yolanda Saldivar. On the surface, Yolanda appeared to be nothing more than a loyal fan who adored Selena, someone who wanted to help celebrate her career. But behind that warm smile and seemingly selfless devotion was a dangerous obsession that no one could have fully predicted. People would later wonder, how could someone so close to her turn into the very person who destroyed her? Yolanda's journey into Selena's inner circle started innocently enough. Back in 1991, as a registered nurse from San Antonio, she reached out to Selena's father, Abraham Quintanilla, with an idea: to start a fan club for Selena. At the time, it must have felt like a gift, a true fan offering to give back to the artist she admired. And under Yolanda's leadership, the club flourished. It quickly grew to over 1,500 members, and it wasn't long before she became more than just a fan club president. The Quintanilla family began trusting her with greater and greater responsibilities. She was promoted to manage Selena's boutiques, put in charge of business checking accounts, and even given keys to Selena's own home. Can you imagine? A fan having that much trust, that much access. To the Quintanillas, she seemed like family, but not everyone felt so comfortable with Yolanda's presence. Martin Gomez, Selena's fashion designer, began noticing something unsettling. He would later recall how Yolanda's behavior was possessive, even vindictive. She wasn't just protective of Selena, she was controlling, almost as if she didn't want anyone else to be close to her. Gomez even accused her of sabotaging his work and playing manipulative games. 6 weeks before Selena's death, he quit, and before he walked away for good, he gave Selena a warning that now feels chilling. Be careful. Sadly, that warning wouldn't be enough. Around the same time, Abraham Quintanilla started hearing troubling complaints from employees who weren't getting paid and from fans who had sent membership dues but never received anything in return. It didn't take long before he uncovered the truth. Yolanda had been stealing. Using forged checks, she had embezzled over $60,000. The betrayal must have stung deeply. Here was someone they had welcomed into their lives, trusted with their business, and she had been taking from them all along. On March 9, 1995, Abraham, Selena, and Suzette confronted Yolanda about the theft. The confrontation was tense, and Abraham immediately fired her. But Selena, always compassionate and wanting to tie up loose ends, continued to communicate with Yolanda. She still needed important financial records that were in Yolanda's possession. It's the kind of decision that makes you wonder, if Selena had just cut all ties, would she still be alive today? No one will ever know for sure. What is known is that on March 13th, Yolanda purchased a .38 caliber revolver. For weeks, she stalled, finding excuses not to hand over the documents Selena needed. Finally, she agreed to meet Selena on the morning of March 31st at a Days Inn motel in Corpus Christi. Inside that motel room, whatever hope Selena might have had for a peaceful resolution quickly vanished. An argument broke out. Selena decided to leave, but as she turned away, Yolanda pulled out the revolver and fired a single shot into her back. The bullet severed an artery. It was 11:48 a.m. Somehow, despite losing blood at a terrifying rate, Selena managed to run nearly 400 feet to the motel lobby, leaving a trail of blood behind her. She screamed for help, her voice carrying a mix of panic and pain, and in her final moments of consciousness, she identified her killer with chilling clarity. Yolanda, 158. She collapsed shortly after, and though medical teams rushed her to the hospital, the damage was too severe. Selena died from blood loss and cardiac arrest, leaving the world in shock. Her death wasn't just the loss of a rising star, it was the loss of a daughter, a wife, a friend, and a cultural icon whose story ended not because of fate, but because of a betrayal so deep it still haunts people to this day. And in the years since, the way her life and death have been remembered has been shaped not only by grief, but by the lens of the media, a lens that can either preserve a legacy with dignity or twist it into something unrecognizable. That's why what comes next matters, because Selena's memory isn't just history, it's still on trial. And if you stay with me till the end, you'll see exactly how the media shaped the way we mourned her, and why that battle over her legacy still rages on. Legacy on trial, media and memory. Ever since Selena's tragic death in 1995, the story of her life has been anything but at rest. It all started almost immediately after she was gone. The wounds were still fresh when Hollywood came knocking. Just months after her death, there were already whispers. No, not just whispers, full-on plans to make a movie about her life. Suzette Quintanilla, Selena's sister, has openly said they didn't feel ready for it. In fact, she revealed that they were practically pushed into approving the 1997 biopic. "We were forced to make the movie," she explained. "Our lawyers got word that Hollywood was already going to start making a movie." Imagine the position they were in, still grieving, still in shock, yet facing the reality that if they didn't take charge, strangers who never knew Selena could turn her life into their own story. In that light, it's easy to understand why they agreed. And that film, starring Jennifer Lopez, became an instant classic for many, shaping how an entire generation came to know Selena. But even that came with its critics, because once you decide to tell a story, you also decide what to leave out. Years later, the family would once again find themselves in the middle of the same fight, this time with Netflix's Selena, the series. They had signed on, approved the project, and A.B. Quintanilla, Selena's brother, defended it by saying Selena herself would have been ecstatic. Yet, not everyone felt the same. Critics claimed the show was remarkably uninterested in Selena the person, focusing more on the family's role in her career than on Selena's own inner life and personality. Was it because the family was too involved, or was it simply a creative choice? Fans debated it endlessly online, some saying it was a missed opportunity, others defending it fiercely as a labor of love. Then came perhaps the most explosive controversy in recent years, the Oxygen docuseries that featured Yolanda Saldivar, the woman who murdered Selena. Just the thought of giving Saldivar any sort of platform infuriated many fans. Abraham Quintanilla, Selena's father, was especially vocal, calling the program "nothing but lies." For him, there was no justification for putting the killer's face back on television. And yet, the project aired, raising difficult questions. Do such documentaries exploit a tragedy? Or do they offer insight into one of the most infamous crimes in music history? Is there ever a way to tell that side of the story without feeling like it's giving attention to the wrong person? What's clear is that the Quintanillas have never been passive observers when it comes to Selena's legacy. They've stepped in, sometimes even taking legal action, to make sure her image and story remain consistent with their vision. Supporters see this as a loving act, the way any family might protect the memory of someone they lost too soon. But critics argue that this level of control can prevent the world from seeing Selena in her full humanity, her flaws, her complexities, the moments that made her more than just an icon. It's a delicate balance. Protect too much, and the story feels sanitized. Let go too much, and it risks being distorted. And the fans? They're not just passive consumers either. They have strong opinions, and they make them known. Many still remember the casting backlash when Christian Serratos was chosen to play Selena in the Netflix series. Some said she looked more like J.Lo playing Selena than Selena herself, pointing out the challenge of recreating someone so beloved without losing the magic. And yet, no matter the criticism, Selena projects continue to pull in massive attention. Her MAC makeup collection, for example, sold out within hours, proving that even after all these years, her name alone is enough to cause a frenzy. It's as if each new portrayal, no matter how divisive, is another chance for fans to reconnect with her, even if they disagree on the details. But beneath all the love, all the passion, lies the thorny question. When someone is gone, who gets to decide how they're remembered? Is it the family who lived and breathed life alongside them? Or is it the public who gave them their fame and continue to keep their name alive? As Dr. Deborah Pérez once pointed out, institutions have long found ways to capitalize on Selena's music and memory. Posthumous projects often walk a fine line between tribute and profit, and sometimes that line is blurred beyond recognition. Recent documentaries have added yet another layer of complexity by directly involving her killer's voice in the narrative. For many, that's crossing a line, one that reopens old wounds for her family and fans alike. But for others, Uncomfortable truths are part of history, even if they hurt to hear. It becomes a question of ethics. Is remembering someone only about celebrating the good, or does it also mean confronting the darker chapters, no matter how painful? With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.